Hello and welcome back to episode 33 of the Boxing Social Podcast with me, your host, Rob Tebbutt. As always, before we get started, I'd just like to remind everybody to press that like button, comment, subscribe and turn your notifications on for more boxing content. Now that's out of the way, I am delighted to be joined. It's been a while, but I am joined by Mark Tibbs, trainer extraordinaire. Mark, been a little while since I last caught up with you. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, Robert. All well, yourself? All good?
I'm very good, thanks. Very good. I haven't seen you since probably sometime in May. I think it was the last time I saw you. Yeah, late May. How have you been?
Yeah, been really busy. Got some prospects in the gym. Big heavyweight Johnny Fisher, so having some fun with him. he's very popular over there in Essex, so he's doing well with that. He's back in the gym last couple of weeks after his fight at the O2. So yeah, we're just ticking over at the minute, waiting for the thumbs up to get going again. And Johnny Hedges, he was also on that bill, light heavyweight prospect. He's had a fight with him out in Austria, and it was meant to be a 4-round fight. He impressed me. It was, and he impressed me out there. Just certain little things, not really to, certain people around me, but to me as a coach, there was corners he has to turn, confidence-wise and distance and timing, not to be rushed. And so that trip was really worthy, and it was good. It was good. And since that win, he's come back. He put on a good performance at the O2 on the Johnny Fisher fight. Had them two on together. And yeah, he's coming on really nice, John. They're all young though. They're all very young. So, but they're all showing good signs to be good fighters in the future, yeah.
That's what I was going to come on to next, really. You've got a very young stable in there. I was just speaking to Harvey Horn and sort of laughing and joking with him that he's the oldest in there. Is it the oldest statesman and he's only a baby? God, it makes me feel old. But having a young stable of fighters, a bunch of young whippersnappers, I'm assuming that has its excitable moments for a trainer.
No, it's good. I've seen, the prospects before, see them come through and that. So they've got an advantage, really, because, I know what to do with them to bring them on, and there's all different signs that they let off, where I've got a coach and climb in their heads at times and press them physically at times and give them, and rest them at times. But I've got a good guy now, another fella. His name's Tommy Fletcher. Man, big puncher, very good puncher, and he's only 19-year-old, but punches like a man. Do you know what I mean? And he's just been signed up by SJAM, and I'm looking forward to getting him off the ground, so to speak. So I'm excited about him. Southpaw, 6'7", and he's got a very good IQ for a 19-year-old. Timing and distance, relied on his power a little bit, but trying to get him into a habit where he can box his way in and box his way out, if you know what I'm saying. Not keep looking for that big shot. But no, he's from Norfolk, and he comes down and trains with me. He's going to be very exciting, I promise you.
What's the difference? How do you explain the difference between working? You've worked with some really established pros in the past, Billy Joe Saunders, Dillian Whyte, for example. Comparing that to working with your younger prospects coming through, and I'm assuming it's a lot more hands-on, a lot more fine-tuning needed at an early stage of their career.
Yeah, it is. If you want results and you want noticeable changes for the better, then you got to put your time in. Like anything, you got to put your time in with them. And it is, it's quite refreshing for me to do this because, if I see something and they work with me, I'm happy to give them my time. And it's wonderful to see deliver on fight night. You know what I mean? And then. The next fight, the next date, for instance, Johnny Hedges, I was happy with that out in Austria, but I know he can be better than that. So we jumped on one or two things. Confidence went up a little bit, and there's more confidence will come with experience. And but now he's like 3 times the man he was. And I said to one or two people around me, after this Austria trip, he'll be twice the man, but he's 3 times the man. I had him in today. He started to break himself back in again after a couple of weeks. Yeah, he's going to be a good fighter, John Hedges. Very good fighter.
He had a little bit of I remember his debut. He had
Yeah.
Sam Jones has kind of come out and taken responsibility for the way he was matched, so we'll blame Sam Jones. But had a difficult debut. It's not always easy for somebody without the senior amateur experience as well that he didn't quite have. But you've seen a noticeable change in him since then.
Yeah, well, I was busy myself away when he had his debut, but I heard a lot about it. But I heard about John Hedges before he come to me, and obviously he had his debut, and people moaned and groaned about it. But you know, we got him in the gym. We've been doing some good stuff in there, and he's a good prospect, very, very good prospect. See, what it is with him, he's had that schooling, a schooling like Fisher hasn't. You know, Fisher's strong, very strong. And I'm not doing comparisons, but like where he's such a good worker, Johnny Fisher, good learner, he's picking it up. He's picking it up. So you know what I'm saying? I don't know why I brought him in on that, but what I'm saying is, John Hedges understands things where he's had that schooling. Johnny does. Fisher understands it, but because Johnny's got that strength and that power, so he's in front a little bit than Johnny Hedges sort of thing. But listen, they're all very different, and everyone's different, and they've all got their pluses and their minuses. But you know, it's all experience at the end of the day. When I mean experience, it's a process that they've got to go through, and before they become champions. Yeah.
I want to go back a little bit today and talk about years gone by. There's probably some people watching this who know you as Mark Tibbs, boxing trainer, without realising that once upon a time you were a boxer yourself, and obviously used to fight as a professional. Your dad, we'll come on to shortly, who's obviously a very revered, well-known trainer. I think Harvey Horn hit the nail on the head in the interview that I did with him earlier, where the Tibbs name is synonymous, particularly in London with regards to boxing. Going back to the start, what's your earliest memories of boxing? I'd imagine it was something that was very much prominent in your family growing up, with your dad being as successful as he was. Yeah,
well, to be fair, when I come here to this studio today, Repton Boxing Club's only up the road in Cheshire Street, and it was and I used to. That was in my teen, when I was a teen. You asked me about my first memory, and my first memory, Repton Boxing Club wasn't where it is today. It was around here somewhere in Hackney, and my very first memory was I think it was a prefabricated building, and my uncle Dennis Doherty, he's very good friends of me father's best mate, and my father was in prison at the time, so my uncle Dennis took me to Repton. I don't know why. I was 6 years old, but I'll never forget. I was walking down 3 or 4 steps before I went into the gym. And I think I was a shy kid, and I guess that's why they took me boxing, I believe. I don't know. But I'm only looking at my own son now and think, comparisons with myself, and I think, well, I know why me and my wife put him in certain groups, bring his confidence out, things like that. But Repton Boxing Club, had a wonderful impact on my life and my schooling, so to speak. But I'll never forget, Tony Burns was a young man now. He's not with us now, but he was a young man, and he looked after me along with a guy called Darky Smith. I don't know if you've heard of him, Darky Smith. He was my very, very first trainer, along with Tony Burns. So that was my first memories as a amateur boxer. Yeah.
Obviously, people always talk about the first time they go through. I mean, if you remember that far back, getting bitten by the bug early on, you remember that? You remember wanting to go back to the gym?
Yeah, I've got some lovely old photos, and they bring back memories of that gym, and big old fat gloves. Yeah. They look like they stink, and they was donkey's years old, full of horsehair. But they were good memories and good times. I went there regular. I never forget, my uncle used to take me there regular on I believe it was a Sunday morning. And I used to have pie mash on the way home in Stratford, the place called Kelly's. And I think Kelly's is still here in Bethnal Green. But that's the best pie mash as well. Wow, I don't know. There's a few, Robins ain't bad. But, boxing's been good to me. Boxing's been good. It's been good. And I guess, why did I start boxing? I don't know why I started boxing. I think I vividly remember a guy called Mickey May, He was a former West Ham coach at West Ham Boxing Club, and he was another friend of my father's dad, Jimmy, my dad. And he gave me a pair of boxing gloves. I'll never forget it. He gave me a pair of boxing gloves. I lived in Park Avenue in East Ham, E6. He gave me a pair of boxing gloves one day, just chucked them about, didn't think nothing of it. And Dennis, my other, as I say, my uncle, he took me to boxing. And I went right through till I was like, bloody ain't stopped boxing.
You obviously turned over as a professional. We'll come on to talk about your dad shortly. Why did you retire? Because you were young, you were 24 when you retired.
So 24, I guess, 24, 25. Do you know what, Robert? To be fair, I had a very good amateur career and a very good amateur career. I turned pro a little bit too early for me. When I think back now, when I get involved with these prospects, I know what I've got to do with them because I've been there, and I should have done things I wish I'd have done different sort of thing. And I was in the England squad at Crystal Palace. I'll never forget a man called Kevin Hickey, I believe he was the head coach there. And I kind of liked it. I liked it. I say I liked it. Boxing for me was my life. It was probably more than school should have been. You know what I'm saying? And I was in all the junior championships, won everything. All the NABCs. I went abroad and won multi-nations, gold medals and whatnot. And represented my country, England. I boxed against, in Sweden and Denmark. So I had some international experience as well. But I do regret not staying on as a senior for at least 3 or 4 years, or 3 years, me personally, because of, maturity-wise.
Fighting against other men.
Yes, and because I had a never forget, I had a very good time in I weren't there long, to tell you the truth. I weren't in Crystal Palace very long, not for any reason. I left myself, to tell the truth, and I regret that because I had a good buzz about the setup there. I had a good buzz about the setup. I wasn't happy with like the army style training, do you know what I mean? But that's where we all need discipline in, if you know what I mean. But I loved the boxing side of it, and I remember very, very clearly, the boxing ring and us sparring against international English internationals, a bit more senior than us, and we was probably fed as sparring partners a little bit in and out us. But that was good. So I do regret. I'll never forget. I turned professional and at 19-year-old, and I won back to back. I won some good titles, in ABCs, and I won the best fighter of the night at the Cafe Royal in London. And I was doing well, I was doing well as an amateur. But I do regret turning pro a little bit too early, to tell the truth, Robert. Yeah.
Why did you call it a day? Why did you retire when you did?
See, I'd never actually really wanted to turn it in, so to speak. But I wanted a break. I wanted a break from boxing. I had a little bits and pieces going on in my life, and. I turned professional with Frank Warren, and I had some fights. Most of my fights, I guess, under the Frank Warren banner. I had a spell with Matchroom, Barry Hearn, and they was very good. That was all very good. And then, for some reason or another, I opened a car wash business in Canning Town, and I just wanted to take a year out, I wanted to find myself. See, my dad was training the likes of Nigel Benn, Chris Pyatt, Mark Taylor. He was involved in some big fights, in training camps. And I visited some of them training camps with him. But I don't know what it was. I wanted to take a year out, and a year turned into 10 years like that. 10 years just flew by. And so that brings me up to 35, right? 34, 35.
About, yeah.
Yeah, and I've never stopped training. I never stopped travel. I've done a bit of travelling in that time, and I just always thought my youth is always going to be there. Just feel invincible. You know what I mean? Like you think that's not going to go anywhere. You don't understand it, and I trained in different countries. No matter where I went on my travels, I found a gym and trained. I always did. That's what I was like. I was just a gym freak, so to speak. You know what I mean? And then I come back. I was away. You know, I went to Australia. I went to America, and I was in Spain a lot. You know, because I had friends there and that. But I sparred. I was in the Peacock training in my 30s, and I was playing because I found myself. I found me mantra and found me rhythm. Do you know what I mean? And I found me style because going back to when I was an amateur, Repton Boxing Club taught me how to box. Yeah, no disrespect to West Ham. West Ham was good, but West Ham had me on my front foot, going forward, no head movement. When I see me videos now, I was strong. I didn't realise how strong I was for a young kid. And but you know, I walked on a few shots, and then I'll never forget. I met a guy called George Odwell at Repton Boxing Club when my dad took me there. My dad took me to Repton Boxing Club. he left me in boxing club. He left me in the Repton Boxing Club. And left me. Never went back there. You know, very often. And excuse me. He left me with a guy called George Odwell, and I think he's dead now. I'm pretty sure he's dead now. George, lovely man, and Georgie Bowers, George Odwell. But George Odwell, he got me off my front foot. He had me head centre balance. Yeah, he probably realised I weren't the biggest of punchers, so why fight on the front foot? So he got me moving my head from left to right, moved my feet a little bit, and I knew, you know, I had fun boxing. Hit and don't be it. So I don't know why I got onto that. I don't know why I got onto that now.
Sorry, we're talking. It's okay. It's a beauty of these podcasts is they can go in any direction. Yeah. So we're all good. You mentioned your dad there.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Jimmy Tibbs in British boxing.
Yeah.
You mentioned Nigel Benn and of the other fighters that he worked alongside. Going back to just Jimmy Tibbs as your dad, you mentioned the fact that he was in prison when you were young.
Yeah. I
can't imagine how that would affect me being that young. What was it like for you?
Do you know what? I was only 2 years old when I realised. It's pretty. I remember everything. You know, remember everything. Sorry.
All right.
Yeah, I remember everything, and I remember how it all happened, sort of thing, and it was just my life, I guess, Robert. You know, I just thought that was it. I just thought all dads were like that. I guess I think so. I think so, if you know what I mean. But then, as I got a bit older, obviously we had to go on visits, and yeah, it was difficult for my mum, I guess. But we had a bit of help from my mum's family, as in, you know, we pulled together. My dad's had some good friends in the East End that, you know, we just got on with it. It was me and my brother. We went to school. It was difficult at school, to tell the truth, when I think back. And it was difficult at school. We got a little bit of, you know, people saying things and that. People saying things. It weren't easy. But we just got on with it. You know, we got on with it. And yeah, I think it just was like, it was our life. That's all we know.
Yeah, I sort of have similar conversations with people. I mean, like, ask silly questions to say Chris Eubank Jr. Like, what's it like growing up being a Eubank? And he's like, well, I never knew anything else. It's it's how you, it's what you're introduced to, and it's your life as you live it, I guess, is sort of what you're saying. Yeah,
well, how can I say it? It's all we knew. So we was brought up, you know, to be fair. It's been good for us. It's been good for us in some ways. In some ways, it ain't been so good, you know, because, you know, it's really hard for me to explain, Robert, because I'm not a moaner or a groaner, you know. I've been brought up to get on with things. But, you know, in school, going back to school, we was just normal kids, me and my brother. But my dad was, like, seen as a gangster, and it was difficult, you know. And it's quite unfair, really, when I think about it. But it was just how it was. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I can imagine. I don't want to dwell too much on it. I want to talk about kind of more positive things. You know, but do you remember, how old were you when he got out?
When my dad come out, I'll never forget the day when he come out of prison. The old street come out. The old street come out, and my dad pulled up, and he's quite modest. My dad, he really is,
Yeah,
you know.
he is, yeah.
And he pulled across down the road. He had a nice car. He come home in a really nice car, you know. And we've never been in a car. I don't think, me and my brother. But he come home in a lovely car. I won't say what it was, but he parked it down the street because he was that's the sort of man he is. And there was all people out on the street and that, yeah. But
It must have been a great time welcoming him back. And then obviously, of course, he went back to boxing and enjoyed tremendous success. And now we see him now. I mean, I remember coming to your house sort of 6-7 months ago now, which has flown by.
Yeah.
And every time I'm in the gym with your old man, it's always a great experience for me. So I can only imagine what it's like for you to be able to have him to call on his experiences and also spend that time with him. Yeah,
I've always liked being around my dad. I like having him around me.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you think it's because of the fact that you didn't always have him growing up? Is that just the benefit of?
No, to be fair, when he trained me as a pro, we never always seemed eye to eye. We clashed a lot. Yeah, we did clash a lot, I must say, and we've had some terrible arguments. You know what I mean? But when we work together, it's like poetry, and it's when you can read each other's minds.
Like telepathic.
That's what it's like. So when we work together in boxing, nothing comes in our way. Any quarrels we've had or ups and downs, bang, it's all side. We've got battle. We're in a battle. We've got to win in the best way possible and keep our man safe. And that's how we work together. And bang, bang, bang. We work well together in the gym. Lately, since that lockdown, he's been in the gym with me, and it's been brilliant with these prospects and all, because words of wisdom, you know, and is treasure. You know what I'm saying, Robert? And so it's good for the young prospects. I'm sure their parents realise our what good that is for their fighters, like, you know, yeah.
When he used to train, we actually had a conversation today. We were talking about Terence Crawford versus Sean Porter this past weekend, when we saw Kenny Porter kind of call an end to proceedings when his son was in the ring, and we were discussing kind of the positives and the negatives of father-son coaching relationships, which we're seeing more and more now, or we see certainly a lot of it. What were the positives of having your dad as your trainer, and also what were the negatives? Well,
same again, to be fair. I think... My dad had me back as a young pro. He had me back, but it didn't work for us. When I think back now, I'll say it to him, to his face now. He was too emotional with me, and that's understandable. But you know, I think I have no regrets, you know. I was very loyal. I'm very loyal, and I would have no question training with anyone else. You know what I mean? My dad was my trainer, and that was it. And I was approached, to be honest with you, Brendan Ingle, when I boxed at the York Hall on my second pro fight, he invited me up to Sheffield, and only recently in the Saunders camp, you know, we was in the villa in Spain talking about one or two things, and obviously Billy had a spell with Dominic, and I brought that up, but I've never shared that with anyone to recently. But and it was just like it went straight over my head. But you know, in hindsight, perhaps I should have. Do you know what I mean? But no, me dad's me dad. You know, and I'm proud of myself for not even questioning training with anyone else. You know, and that's the way I am. Old-fashioned, I guess.
Knowing what you know about the sport, and obviously having a dad who was involved in the sport and who looked after you in your career, you've got a young son. Yeah. Would you want him to box?
I want him to be happy. And he watches me watching boxing all the time. I nearly said 24/7, but no. But all the time. And he has no interest in it right now. He's only 6 now. He'll be 7 in January. He likes karate. And he sings in the choir, which is totally opposite to where I'm come from. And
you don't strike me as a choir boy.
No. He's he does a bit of rugby, he does a bit of karate, And what else does he do? Well, my wife, she's very good. She puts him into different groups and sees, for experience and confidence. But he's coming along nice. Yeah, he's coming along nice. He's lucky.
Yeah, it's a question I always like to ask people who are involved in the sport, whether or not they'd want their child to be involved in boxing. I always feel like the answers are always very interesting, depending on who you speak to.
They've got to be very good, they've got to be very good. It's a tough sport, Robert, It's a tough sport, yourself. Only the few make a life of it, and not make a life of it, but, can make a living at it. Yeah.
In the modern era, I mean, it's kind of more so probably in the last 10 years or so, kind of training methods, so to speak, are different now than certainly when you were a pro, when your dad was originally starting off in the sport. How would you, if you could put into your words as what you are as a trainer, what style you like to implement, what sort of things you look for as a trainer?
Well, what in a fighter that's coming to me, it depends where they are and who they are, if they're established and what they've done and whatnot. But for instance, if you've got someone in front of you that holds their feet too long, it's up to a coach to show them how to move their feet. Encourage them to move their feet. Not all the time. It depends if they're punchers, if they're boxers, if they're it really you've got to keep your eye on everything without driving them mad. And you have your own process in teaching what you feel they've got to have in their armoury, so to speak. And I like that. It comes easy to me, I think.
What's your standout memories as a trainer? Obviously, you've had successes both as a fighter and as a trainer. But is there anything that immediately comes to mind when I sort of ask about that?
Do you know what? Whether they're 4-rounders, 6-rounders, 8-rounders, 10-rounders, 12-rounders, I've had some great nights with all of them. With all of them, it's such a, because the process of training them for that fight and the victory, it means everything to me. The win, and after all that hard work. But Dillian Whyte was. We had some great nights at the O2. Some great nights at the O2, and we went to America. But Billy Joe Saunders, we had some great nights with him. Colin Lyons, that was he come to us at the end of his career, and he won the British title, I believe, at York Hall against the boy out of Colchester, Essex. I can't think of his name now. Can't think of his name, Robert, sorry.
That's all right.
We had, so that was a good night because the process and the training process, and I think we might have had a niggle in his foot and we had to take him out of the gym and put him in a swimming pool to keep him. Some people went, no, cancel the fight. I went, no, we've come too far. Go in the pool for a week, Colin. I went 5 days in the pool. I took him up Dagenham, place called Gold's Gym. They had a lovely swimming pool in there. I'm not a swimming coach, but we're gonna adapt. And he went in the pool for 5 days. Show went on, and he won the British title. Yeah, Lee Purdy. His name was Lee Purdy.
Box for a world title.
Yeah.
You mentioned Dillian Whyte there. I mean, it's probably some of your most well-known work, certainly of the past 10 years or so. How would you explain where Dillian Whyte was when you first started working with him compared to the fighter that he became when you stopped working with him?
Well,
because I think it's fair to say, I think the general consensus was that he was a much improved fighter in that period of time.
No, Dillian, when I very first started working with him, he was different. He was different in a positive way, in a good way. He's just a little bit emotional, and very emotional actually. And I like to think we nurtured that, and also compacted him a bit more, got him to believe in his jab, in his long arms and that jab. And he was a good fighter, Dillian. He's a good fighter. And I had some good fun working with him, and very like Billy Joe Saunders, very hard grafter. little bit too hard at times. But he's learned that. Like when I stopped, just before 3 or 4 fights before I finished with him, because he said, no, I want to do this, want to do that. He learned to have a day off here and there, get that bounce back in his step. You know what I mean? Yeah. So no, it was fun. It was fun with Dillian. It was fun with him. Yeah.
That's cool. So working in the ring with him. Now, one of the things that you're also quite known for, I don't know if you know where I'm going to go with this, was the infamous table throwing incident before the Derek Chisora fight on, I think it was a Joshua Brazil undercard. It was a Joshua undercard somewhere in Manchester.
It was not Brazil. It
Molina?
Was Molina.
There we go. Yeah,
Molina.
one of them. I knew it was one of them.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the more well-known press conferences of the last British boxing history, of that table flying over. What's your recollection of events?
Well, do you know what? See, on the build-up to that fight, like I say, there was a bit of beef going on with Dill and him, and Dillian had quite a big team around him, and so you got to think of this. So I've got it in my ear roll quite a lot for weeks. You know what I mean? Got it in my ear roll about Derek, and I knew Derek as well. When he was with Frank Warren, so I knew he was a bit of a volatile character himself, and at that time. He's different now, and like we're all different. But so we was all pumped. We was all pumped at that press conference. I had a lot of money beneath my feet in ticket money, and I was more worried about that than anyone on this table. I couldn't afford to lose it. You know what I mean? So I thought it was at the time. So I'm not making any excuses. I'm going to tell you as it is. At that time, when that table come over, I was fuming because, Adam Smith, Eddie Hearn, when I looked at it, they guided it over. They had to guide it over. But to be fair, it weren't that heavy. But it was the fault. Who are you to chuck a table at us? That's bang out of order. That's out of order. So, and obviously I did what I did, but I did what I did, but I aimed it low because I'm not stupid. I want the fight to go ahead. We've all put a lot of hard work into this. But since then, you ain't gonna believe this. That happened 3 weeks after. 3 weeks after that fight. I'm sure it was 3 weeks after. I mean, if you done your own work, but it seemed like 3 weeks after. I was at West Ham Football Ground, the new ground at Stratford. I went to see the Rolling Stones. Yeah, the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm outside getting me tickets because we had some tickets behind the reception, and we was all happy. I was with some people and that. We was happy. We was going to see Mick Jagger, at West Ham. And so we get our tickets. We had some really good seats. Well, they weren't actually seats. We was on the floor in front of the stage, yeah. And all of a sudden, I turned to, because I've heard Mick Jagger playing the guitar, warming up, and as I've looked to me right, Chisora's running at me. so I thought, hold up, what's happening here? But I went, Derek. He went, what are you doing here? I went, same as you. he high-fived me. We had a cuddle, and he was good as gold. But that was my first encounter with him. I thought, hold up, it was a bit big for me. But
I can imagine 3 weeks after tables and what have you have been exchanged and thrown, a Derek Chisora running at you is probably not what you want to be seeing.
Nah, but it was they done well on that show. I think that was the that was big after that happened.
Great fight.
Yeah.
A great fight.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the better heavyweight fights, certainly in this country for the last 10 years or so.
That was a tough fight, and Dillian in the corner when he was getting tough, his face, I just wanted to cuddle him. I wanted to cuddle him and take him home because I knew how he was feeling, He spent everything, you know what I mean? It was a tough fight, and I know Derek was just feeling the same way. That was a tough fight. And Manchester, wasn't it? Manchester, yeah. But no, the second time was good. The second time he fought him, it was a bit fresher for that fight, Dillian, I believe. A little bit fresher, and funny enough, I think it was about, what round did he finish it?
11th round, I think.
11th round. In the 10th round, because I was so engrossed in it, because that was tight as well.
It was a close fight. I think Chisora was ahead on the cards at the time of the stoppage, yeah.
Well, I went to him in the 9th or the 10th. No, I went to him in the 10th round. Got stopped in the 11th, didn't it?
I think it was the 10th or the 11th.
Got KO'd in the, yeah. I went to him the round before he got KO'd. I went to my team. What round is this? He tells me. As he sits down in the corner, livened him up a little bit. I went, Dillian, it's very close and it's getting late. It's very close. And he went, watch this. Right? If I would have said to him, you're behind, could have made him a little bit emotional. And that's what I didn't want. I said, it's getting late and it's very close. Well, went out there, he went to me, watch this. He found it, he left up.
He certainly did. As good as the first fight was, the knockout in the second fight was chilling. It was we've never seen Chisora ironed out like that before. Even when he lost to Hay, he got hit with a shot and obviously he got up, but we've never seen him sort of one quitter hitter like that. Yeah. I remember it was actually right in front of me where he got stopped, where he got knocked out. AJ was commentating just in front of me. So yeah, emphatic. You mentioned kind of in between rounds. This is always something that I'm very keen to speak to with regards to trainers who've worked in big fights, high pressure fights. You mentioned kind of giving that instructions to Dillian in between rounds. Talk to me about the role of a trainer in between rounds. How difficult is it to convey the information that you want to in that period of time without, as you say, giving the wrong instruction that could potentially lead them down the wrong path?
Yeah. Well, in my experience, let me give you another example. You know, I'm really into the moment, and you have to be, yeah? And if you work honestly in the moment, yeah, it's the only way to be. You've got to do a little kidding here and there sometimes. But, for instance, when I went to I was looking after Richard Riakporhe for Dillian, and at one time, or for his most of his fights, to tell the truth. And obviously, since I split up with Dillian, we've gone our different ways, and I'm not with his team no more. But when I was looking after Richard Riakporhe, he fought against a guy called Sam Hyde in Manchester again. Joe Gallagher fighter, and to be fair, I went to Dillian. Well, I was training Dillian for the Chisora fight, as it happens. It might have been the second fight.
It was the second fight.
Yeah.
That Riakporhe Sam Hyde fight was on the undercard of Usyk Bellew.
Correct.
In Manchester.
So me and Dillian was in a good place training wise, and I says I was in the Peacock gym. I was upstairs. I was pacing up and down the. There's a floor upstairs. It's not used a lot, so I was walking up and down thinking about Richard. I was worried about him. He's got Sam Hyde, and I weren't really happy about it, to tell the truth. Excuse me. I says, it's a big show, Dillian. I rang him up. I went, Dillian, it's a big show. It's going to be a bit like a rabbit in the headlights, yeah. And I'm not sure if he's ready, to tell the truth. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's ready. And Dillian had a word with me. I won't say what he said because that's private. But more or less, no, boom, he's going to have it, he's got to have it. But I went, right, I'm going to go up there with him, but you're going to train on your own next week. Up in Loughborough we was, training on your own next week. Are you all right with that? I was happy with that. He was in a good place. Dillian was obviously experienced and more than Richard, yeah, and he was in a good place. But I did remind Dillian, just think who you fought in your 7th fight. Have a look, go back in your books, look who you fought in your 7th fight, yeah? That was me, that's how I used to banter with Dillian. Nah. Anyway, so he wanted to have the fight. He wanted to have the fight against Hyde. And it was all a learning process for everybody, but I saw what I saw, and it was a big event for him on a big stage, Usyk Bellew. And he was... he's a role model, Richard Riakporhe, because he was involved in a bit of a bad life and went to university, made his life good, and in Skybox, I think it was Sky TV.
Yeah, he boxed this past weekend. Yeah,
they was interested in him. Yeah, they was pulling him from pillar to post when I talk about his life up in Manchester. We went up there, and we made weight well. We'd done the weight. A couple of people was around him that just don't know the system, the process of how he should be. We want to, you know what I mean? I can't explain it to you, Robert, but you got to have the right people around you in situations like that. You know what I mean? And so I was glad that I went up there with him, and to be fair, in that fight, he never won a round. He never won a round. He was stuck. Something was stuck in his head. We tried everything. Talking about the rounds now, aren't we, in between rounds? I tried everything with him. Everything. To make him fire. Throw his hands. Yeah? Because he froze up. And he was just sitting on getting battered for 7, 8 rounds. So this is what I did to him. I don't know where it come from. But I stood back in the corner. He was in front of me there. And I wanted everyone to hear. You know, I want him to hear, but I want everyone around us to hear. I said, Richard, your body language says you don't want to be in here. He looked at me like this. So then I whispered privately to him, please let me pull you out. He looked at me, he done this. He went, watch this. He went out there. I fired something in his brain, bludgeoned him, one shot.
Caused the injury.
Caused an injury, and Joe chucked the towel in, and rightly so. It was a really bad eye injury. But that particular, I sense what was going to happen with Richard from my experience, and it happened. But we got out of jail. We got out of jail by, I sparked something in his head. Yeah. Anyway, so after that, can I keep talking?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
After that, he faced a guy called Tommy McCarthy. Now, on paper, Tommy McCarthy was better than Sam Hyde. Yeah?
Good amateur, Tommy.
Yeah.
Good fight.
So I thought, right, got my own work cut out here after that. I can't afford that to happen again. You know what I mean? So I gets him in the Peacock gym. They had a gym out the back, a little private gym, the amateur gym it was. We used that. But we had a good camp for that fight, and I had to. He was stuck in that mode. So I only started training him around the Sam Hyde fight, I guess. I think I had one fight prior to that, little 4-6 rounder. Then he went straight into Sam Hyde. But then obviously we've got Tommy McCarthy. So Tommy McCarthy was decent amateur, good pedigree and that. And I got him in the Peacock gym. I had, if I remember rightly, I had Fabio Wardley, bit big, but limited experience, to warm Richard up, as in sparring, give him 4 with him. And I brought Craig Richards in, who could box a bit, good boxer, but lighter. So as Fab was sparring, Richard was comfortable, a bit too comfortable. At that time, I said to Fabio, all his training, what's he done? I should have known, because I introduced Fabio to Dillian. But I went, what's he done in the amateurs? Remind me. He said, I think he's been a white collar. So I thought, that's why. He's come on since, but I went, well, that's why. So I'm glad I had Craig there. But so I went, right, Craig, in you go after 3 or 4 rounds. Now, Richard was out of his depth. You understand, yeah? So this is how I try and bring him on, you know what I mean? So he was out of his depth, but where he's the bigger man, if he had to, he could hold it. He could hold his own. But, you know, a good boxer can box around any punches if they're better boxers. You know what I mean? It's very easy for good boxers. Anyway, but cut a long story short, we worked with Richard, and Craig helped me up Richard's boxing skills for the Tommy McCarthy fight. And he went out there with a different mindset. I forget where the show was now. It was in a big warehouse somewhere in, I don't know if it was in Liverpool, I can't think where. It was a Matchroom show, but he done a good job. He got the measure, he teed him off. But I had a chat with him. I had a chat with Richard before we left the hotel. And I pulled him over on his own before we going to the changing room. So I said, Richard, I wanted to have one conversation with him to let him know what we've just done in the last 8 weeks training, yeah? But it ain't about the physical training, what we've done in sparring, blah, blah, blah. I want to make sure I've got every bit of faith in you. Get hold of this fella, Tommy McCarthy, get his measure, and let your hands go. And he did just that. He done a great job. And I think he done him in about 7, 8 rounds. And to be fair, I shared a taxi that morning. I wouldn't have told Richard then, by accident, you know, because we was going for the weigh-ins, etc. And Tommy and his manager's a very nice guy, Irish guy. Mark Dunlop, lovely fella. Anyway, but they shared a taxi with me. They wanted to get in my taxi with me. I said, come and get in like that. But they was a little bit overconfident. They're going to be after the Sam Hyde performance, yeah? So they was very overconfident. And I played it down a little bit, because you know, that's how I wanted them. That is how I wanted them to, and that was part of our winning that fight. Let them be too confident, because, and obviously he went and done a good job with Tom McCarthy. Fought Chris Billam-Smith after that.
He did, yeah.
Difficult, close fight. But Richard, you know, going back to corner work. You have to, if you know and believe in your fighter, you will find something to trigger something. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And but that was my experience in them two things, and yeah.
Working with Billy Joe Saunders. Now, the last time I saw you was not long after Canelo versus Saunders. Billy Joe is, of course, somebody who's worked with your dad.
Yeah.
Took him to world titles, obviously on the way up as well, with British and the traditional route, which I think is kind of underused now, and it's not really always that followed that much. What was it like working with Billy Joe? I mean, he's somebody who, it seems strange to say it because he's a two-weight world champion, boxed at a very high level, but there's always that feeling that potentially, at least, he could have maybe done more with his career. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely spot on, yeah, for sure. Right the way through his career, you know, lovely, you know, good person to train, hard trainer, diligent trainer. You know, he could have been better. I mean, on the way up, I'm only looking back myself. You've asked me, looking back. I'm not saying this is facts, but you know, I'm sure he's cut corners himself on the way up with what was in front of him, because he was that good. But all them corners over that period of time, if I'm true in what I'm saying, I'm only, you know, I'm not saying this, but I just guess this. You know what I mean? All them little corners, they add up.
Yeah,
they add up, and yeah, that's frustrating. But that's frustrating. He's very, very talented, Billy Joe. But very, 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 very talented, as you know yourself. But a quality trainer, quality trainer to train. Yeah.
How good was he when you compare? I mean, you make a good point there about. I mean, it's one of the things that's been kind of said of Billy Joe in his career, where he sort of fought to the level of his opposition. When he had a real threat in front of him, he picked it up. Yeah. When he didn't, potentially, he sort of underperformed at times. But how good do you have to be able to kind of get away with that, I guess, is probably one way of describing it. How good was he? Or is he? We don't know if he's going to come back, but you know, in the time that you worked with him and that your dad worked with him.
Yeah, well, he was very, very good. He was very, very good, but he could have been better, I believe. You know, I'm talking to you now, Rob. Yeah. He was good. He was good. He was a good character to be around. He's a good character to be around. He's fun, but weight problem. You know, I think when he turned professional, I mean, I think he probably could have been a light middle. Do you know what I mean? Looking back, but he was that good. I remember my dad used to put him in sparring with any size. They couldn't touch him. Could not touch him. I mean, any size, big cruiserweights, just couldn't touch him. And he was that good. Yeah.
That kind of. I mean, I don't know Billy that well. Know him enough to say hello and stop and have a chat and what have you, but people tell me at least he's a live wire in the gym, and I've been around him enough to be able to see that. But is that kind of little hint of, I guess, madness or whatever you want to call it? Does that kind of make him? Was that, I guess, sort of a bit of an enigma? Billy Joe sort of strikes me as.
Well, he likes a joke around and a wind up more than anything. But no, he's not mad. He's not mad, not at all. But yeah, no, he's had some good times. I learnt a lot with watching my dad and Billy Joe Saunders being built in that. I played my part as well, but it was a great experience watching him being built from Southern area right through to world champion. Yeah.
Obviously, we've done a pretty long, extensive interview, which you can go back and watch on Boxing Social after that fight. But just to touch on the Canelo fight, shame how it ended with you and Billy Joe, considering kind of the history between yourself and the family.
Yeah, I think so. Well, nothing's really. We have no arguments. There's not been no arguments. I ain't had no arguments. I'm a straight shooter. I play the game, and I'm a straight shooter. And along the way, if there's any problems, then say so, and then we'll have it out. And if it ain't right, I shouldn't be there, then tell me. And we had a good camp. He was in the best shape of his life, in the best shape of his life. And I think if you look back on any videos, it's all documented anyway. You know what I mean? But it was just, shame. But yeah, I've watched the replay a couple of times, and I was proud the way he come out, and he stood on them ropes and he stood out. I still get tingles up my spine against 73,000 people, and the process started in Martin Murray, and that process started that. We knew that we was going to get that fight, and it was a long old process, 6 months of my life, but I'm sure when we're all 10 years on, please God, we make it. We can look back and have some thoughts of positive and probably negative ones over it. But no, Billy Joe Saunders and his family, we've got a lot of history with them, and they're nice people. And he could have been a better fighter.
As far as experiences go, that must have been right up there. You mentioned there 73,000, and it's like, yes, whenever you get 70,000 people to watch a boxing match, it's always going to be great. But particularly at the time where there hadn't been any crowds, there would be 73 people, let alone 73,000 people.
Yeah.
So being involved in that sort of atmosphere, and Canelo Alvarez, arguably certainly one of the greatest Mexican fighters of all time, that must have been brilliant to be involved in. Yeah,
it was a very, very good experience. I mean, you're so engrossed in your job and what you've got to do. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but...
You don't take it in at the time. Yeah. You're focused on what you're there to do.
Yeah.
You can't be looking around going, oh, this is fantastic, because that's not what you're there to do. I understand that, of course, yeah.
But no, what's his name? The Mexicans, I thought, at first, are they hostile? But they wasn't. They were just passionate fans. There was families. They was all heckling us outside the hotel. But it was all quite fun. But no, it was a fantastic experience. Yeah.
Being that close to Canelo and kind of preparing a fighter to face Canelo Alvarez, what does that do for you as a coach, having to kind of work out how to beat, arguably, if not general consensus, the number one fighter in the sport?
Well, he's so strong, and he's strong, and he's got confidence in his distance. He's got confidence in his distance. He's in your distance. He rides shots, and you can tell he's a man that's never cut corners. I guess. And that's what makes him pound for pound great. He's the readability factor. He's up there, and everything. That's why he's pound for pound great. Yeah, quality fighter, quality operator.
Moving up to cruiserweight now, apparently.
Yeah, I'm not too sure who's the cruiserweight. If the cruiserweight's, not much copy, what I'm saying is he'd probably take care of him. But when I saw him against Kovalev, light heavy, I thought Kovalev, a bit old though, Kovalev by then, wasn't he? But I thought light heavy. I'm not too sure about cruiserweight. Who's he going to face at cruiserweight? He's
boxing Olunga Makabu, potentially. This was Tony Bellew knocked out to win the cruiserweight title all of those years ago. Decent fighter though. Good champion. Not the number one in the division, but a good champion.
Yeah. Well, listen, he wants to tick all the boxes through the weights, doesn't he? But I'd like to see him fight at the light heavyweight. Go through that. I was actually there. I was in Vegas. I watched him box Sergey Kovalev, and I don't think it was his best performance. I thought Canelo's. Yeah.
I thought that, and as you mentioned there, it wasn't a prime Kovalev. It wasn't the Kovalev that came over here and beat Nathan Cleverly, or even the Kovalev from the first Andre Ward fight in particular.
Yeah.
And I felt like physically Canelo didn't look at his best. I felt like he looked a little bit sluggish compared to what we've seen at middleweight and super middleweight. So, Yeah, I'm interested to see having that additional weight up at, I think it's going to be at the WBC cruiserweight limit of 190.
Yeah, okay.
But still, it's a lot of weight.
Yeah, I don't like. I mean, it depends what the level of the fighter. You know, he's such a good fighter. He can knock an heavyweight out.
Yeah,
Tee him off and break him down. And, you know, I mean, it depends the level of them. Depends the level of them. But yeah. So when's that fight coming off?
potentially at least. It's been announced at the WBC convention that that's what he wants to do.
Right.
And I guess it's between them to really discuss. He said he wants a little bit of a break. I'm going to imagine he's probably going to take a bit of time to bulk up to that weight class as well. He wants to settle in at the weight. I'd imagine next May. It's usually
So he's
when
definitely it's definitely moving up cruiser.
Not definitely, but it's what's been. He petitioned for it.
He's a little man, yeah.
Yeah, he's very small. Well, you meet Canelo in real life, or obviously you've come very close to him.
Yeah.
He's not a big man.
No, he's not. He's not.
So to go up to those weight classes and fight those, I mean, a lot of cruiserweights are small heavyweights, aren't they? Really? Years ago, they would have been heavyweights.
Of course.
Is an interesting one to see him moving up there for sure.
Yeah, I'd like to see him. There's a couple of good fighters at light heavy. I'd like to see him fight. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he'll probably try his best to get through, but we're almost there now, Mark. So before I let you go, let's talk about Harvey Horn, who, of course, was in here earlier. Obviously, spoke to me about having a little bit of a stop-start career through no fault of his own. And obviously, we had the pandemic, which wasn't great for anybody. How good is Harvey Horn? How excited are you by him? The old man of the gym.
Yeah. Well, he's the littlest man. Yeah, he's the littlest man in the gym, but they do look up to him and look at him the way he moves, and sometimes the way he talks about fights and boxing. So he's like the old man of the gym, so to speak. But no, he's since he's hooked up with Wasserman, he's come alive. He's come alive, and he was like you say, his first management didn't quite get off the ground. Then the pandemic hit. But I took him out to training camp with Billy Joe as Evans, and had him around him. We expected him to fight. And I introduced him to Wasserman through someone, left it to him. Then I went away, trained Billy Joe, went to America. 6 months later, he's off the ground with Wasserman. So I'm really over the moon for him. But not only that, he's come alive. He's that bit mature. He's more confident, and that performance he did back in Wembley for on the was it the Wasserman show, wasn't it?
Yeah, so 8 weeks ago he boxed. Yeah.
Two of them, was it? Who else was it? Boxer and Wasserman. Yeah. On that show, he done well. And you know what I liked about him? Wasserman says to Harvey, I had a message. Would you open the show, open the show, or you can be a floater late? Yeah. And he was adamant. He didn't even think about it. He went, Mark, I've got so many hundreds of fans, he says, and I know their routine, and they ain't going to see me if I open the show live on Sky. And he stuck by it. But when he boxed that night, he lit the place up. It was lovely. All his fans was there. All Nisa and Callie was there with his dad and that. So it was really, really lovely. And I liked him for that. He was loyal to his fans. You know what I mean? And he's twice the fighter he was, obviously, because he's matured and he's got a plan in place. And I'd like to see him look good again on Thursday night. He's got a tough fight on Thursday night. The man's can punch a little bit, and he's thick set, and he walks you down, so it's going to be interesting. And but he's boxing nice, Harvey. He's boxing really, really nice, snappy, sharp, solid. But I'd like to see him fight with a British title as well. Yeah.
Good time to be a flyweight now. He's a British flyweight world champion as well, in Sonny Edwards, of course. Those two have history going back to the amateurs, although never boxed, but have certainly been around each other for a long time. How far do you think he is away from potentially boxing for a world title? Obviously, it's different down in those lower weights as well. It's not as deep division, so you can, if get the right fights, you can get through the weight classes a little bit quicker. Yeah.
Well, I guess look, he's got a. I don't know how many fights he's got with Wasserman now. I'm not too sure, but. He's got a, I think after this fight, he should fight for the British title, if they can do that. And then he wins the British title, God willing, he will grow in confidence even more. even more. And I feel like he's probably 3 or 4 fights away from potentially that being talked about and can happen. And he's a lovely, beautiful boxer, and good IQ, very good IQ. Just confidence will come with the wins. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he's confident. He's confident, but he'll grow.
Yeah,
he'll grow.
Well, we look forward to it. And remember, you can see it live this Thursday on Boxing Social on our Facebook and YouTube channels. Mark Tibbs, always a pleasure to catch up with you, my friend.
Cheers.
Been too long. Hopefully it's not too long before we catch up again soon. Thanks very much for popping down on episode 33, I think, of the Boxing Social podcast. I will catch up with you soon.
Lovely, Robert. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Mark.
Cheers, Robert.
Lovely.
Thank you.